cas, malheureusement, comme n'est pas parmi nous, c'est avec Ronald Trump. Donc, conservateur au musée des arts décoratifs du département. Et il nous propose de parler de l'ornement. Voter aussi, bien d'autres qui ont étudié ce genre de l'ornement. Et ensuite, on est très heureux d'accueillir la conférence de le vendre aujourd'hui, François de qui réalise des équipements selon le technique justice, qui sera plus concrètement. Il le fait dans le cadre de l'installation et on va faire également l'analyse. Puisqu'ils ont pu nous attendre, former de faire. Il à Bruxelles, le nouveau Untitled Chapter que vous connaissez sans doute, et on travaille pour un travail de restauration. Nous écoutons M. Frank, lui faire un... lui faire lire Mr. Frank.
Okay, good afternoon from Vienna. I hope you can hear me because I almost can't hear you. Is it working? Yes. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm very honored to be part of the board of speakers of your conference this afternoon. Sorry for not speaking French, but I wouldn't like to force my French on you, so I hope you will be able to follow my English grand tour that I want to take you on, a grand tour through the issues of ornament in Vienna. It will take us from Vienna to Italy, Scotland, and back to Brussels again. My topic this afternoon, Art Nouveau ornament in Austria, from aestheticization of history to the aestheticization of life, between new form and ornament is crime. The two protagonists of this topic that I'm going to talk about, you see them here. As school pupils. It's Adolf Loos on the left, on the far left, and Josef Hoffman on the far right. They were school colleagues in Brno in the late 1880s. And they are going to meet again in Vienna as architects, discussing this topic of ours of this afternoon session, the topic of ornament and how to deal with it. To understand the special role that ornament played in Vienna at that time, I want to take you back to the time that when this issue came up in the discussion about decorative arts, and this was definitely the period of the Ringstraße. You see Theo Zasch's famous picture of the Ringstraßenkorso here. This was the society that was very much occupied also with this topic, how to decorate a new Vienna that grew out of the torn down walls and the buildings, the new buildings that were erected along the Ringstraße from the 1860s on. This was a period of eclecticism when the solution for a new style that everybody was looking for at the moment was taken from the history, and that's why you have this topic of history of ornament in my title. The solution that was chosen in Vienna was the reappraisal of historical styles and the reuse of historical styles. Very soon, the new buildings that had to be decorated were decorated with new ornamental systems that were developed by artists like this one here. This is the painter Hans Marcotte. You see him dressed up in the Renaissance dress of a nobleman. This is how the period of historicism saw themselves, and this is one could say that Hans Marcotte was one of the leading, so to say, head designers of this period. On the right you see his studio that he had erected in Gutshausstraße with his famous paintings surrounded by mock-up of a new way of decoration, a mix of styles from the Renaissance to the medievals that was coined to be the Marcotte bouquet in this time. This was the style that developed a new approach to ornament. Ornament in this period, the eclecticist period in Vienna, was seen as something that was important in order to establish a history that the many nouveau riche people that belonged to the Second Society, but also the Habsburgs themselves saw as necessary. Another example, this is the Ancestral Hall in Heinstein Castle, built by Theophilus Hansen in 1863 for a member of the Habsburgs family, Archduke Leopold. And again, a non-existing room that was decorated in the Venetian 16th century style with the ancestors brought in. This use of ornament and the very voluntary use of ornament was very much supported by the members of the Society or of Artists, the Vereinigung Bildender Künstler, that was established in the Künstlerhaus, another building along the Ringstraße. That was this artist association was founded in 1863. This is their building, and out of this building there was the change to come, because it was members of this association who founded the new association of the secessionists. What was where were the foundations laid for this new approach to ornament? Definitely in the style that was to develop after the first great exhibition in London, held in 1851. We already heard the name of Gottfried Semper in Priska Schmückle von Winkwit's lecture. He was one of the designing architects of this first world exhibition that brought together the styles and products and artifacts from all over the world. And out of these pieces that remained in London also developed a new system of dealing with ornament, and it was also put into a book by Owen Jones. We also heard his name already in the morning, who publishes his Grammar of Ornament in 1856. The big achievement of this publication was that ornament was simplified, put in an order, and it was made available for the art industry. This was the idea that also was also behind Owen Jones' publication, and this style and ordering of ornamental styles was used in the first Museum of Decorative Arts, of course, the South Kensington Museum, that was established in London right after the Great Exhibition in the 1850s, and it was made use of the objects that had remained in London. They were used as pattern pieces for the art industry of the time. They could be seen and studied and reproduced by the art industrialists in that time. You see a picture of the historic presentation in the South Kensington Museum, and these studies were also opened to pupils. The School of Design was founded out of the museum, and as you see it in the tile class, also women could study art and art industry. The system that was brought to the continent very soon, Rudolf von Eitelberger, the founding director of the museum, the Imperial Museum of Art and Industry, took over the system of the South Kensington Museum, this combination of pattern collection and teaching in a school of applied arts. That was to be the Kunstgewerbeschule. You see the original drawing by Heinrich von Ferstel for the new building where we are still in today along the Ringstraße, opened in 1871, and the first installation of this building. And as I said, out of this collection also grew the teaching of ornament in classes like this one. It's the painting class with Oskar Kokoschka on the right from around 1906. And this study of ornament also led to a new approach to ornament. The total ability to study every style of ornament, the complete collecting of pieces that could be made pattern pieces for the art industry, also led to a kind of chaos in the decision what style to choose. And out of this chaos grew a new approach to what ornament should be and what style should be appropriate for architecture and the decorative arts and in Austria. One of the key figures for this relaunch and this change of style in the decoration of architecture and everyday objects was definitely Otto Wagner. You see him here. He was the first, he took over the special school of architecture at the Academy of Arts in 1894 and became the first modern stylist, one could say. Otto Wagner, in his first lecture at the university, gave an overview what he was planning, and he said his model that he wanted to apply to the teaching at the academy, opposed to the historicist and eclectic style teaching, was to apply the model of the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. This meant an approach that was very much oriented towards drawing and a high quality drawing, and he developed a new system of teaching, also working with his students. You see him here together with Joseph Hoffman, of course, in a Vienna coffee house, where else. His style is very much influenced by Gottfried Semper's teaching. We already heard about Semper's approach in the morning, meaning that he deals with idea of architecture that was very much oriented towards the surface. You see it very well in his Majolica house that you see here from 1899. The same is true for the stations of the Vienna Stadtbahn that he was starting to build in 1898. And he is one must always bear in mind that where he came from, because he was taught as an historicist. He was starting with projects like this one. It's his famous Artibus project that might remind you as living in Brussels of the Palais de Justice, for example, in Brussels. And this total command of the styles and the reservoir of ornamental elements of the historic architecture also led him to become a teacher who was able to lead his pupils out of this problematic final step of ornament being used as an architectural repetition of former styles into something new. This is the project that Joseph Hoffman, his pupil since 1894, could realize as his diploma. That's for Orbis Insula Partis. If you look at it, it was published in the new pamphlet of the school of Otto Wagner aus der Wagner Schule in 1895. He got his diploma for it, and he got the possibility to travel with it. He won the Rome Prize and could travel for a year in Italy. He went from Vienna to Rome, but also to Capri, and he brings back the drawings like this one. He's not only very much influenced by the classical architecture that he could study, but much more, and as we can read in his autobiography, by the styles, the vernacular styles, the simple architecture, the pure volumes that he could study there. This made a great impression on him. And on the other hand, he goes back to the vernacular styles of his home land, the Moravian countries. That's why, on the other hand, you see the study for a Moravian country house. What's typical for the new style of drawing and ornament here, it's clear surface, simplified lineage. This is the new approach that is taken by the school of Otto Wagner and his followers, especially Joseph Hoffman. Another pupil of this school of Otto Wagner's was Joseph Maria Aubry. He's going to become the architect of a new building that was developed and planned as an exhibition hall for a group of artists that stepped out of the Künstlerhaus, this artist association that had been established as the association of the artists and architects working for the Vienna Ringstraße. Out of this association, a group of 30 artists stepped out in 1897 and founded the secession, the Vereinigung Bildender Künstler Österreichs, the Artists Association of Austria secession. In the beginning, they thought they could reform the Künstlerhaus, but in the end, there was came the final break, and plans were started to establish a new exhibition building that finally could be erected with high support from private sponsors. On the Karlsplatz in Vienna, you see the first design by Joseph Maria Aubry for the building on the left, and on the right the final building. What was new and important for these 15 founding members that founded this secession was a new approach towards the use of ornament also in everyday life and architecture. Ornament was not seen as something that you could simply add anymore, but it was seen as something that should develop out of the structure of the building, of the tectonic quality of the building. At the same time, this quality of using ornament was put into the graphic design, because graphic design was the first possibility for the secessionists to multiply the public that could be made aware of their, who could be made aware of their ideas and interests. And you see some designs by Joseph Hoffman, whom you see here as in a caricature from the time. He's supported by Pallasesine, the supporter of the arts, fights against the ruler. And you see very clearly in Hoffman's design, especially here in the forms of the furniture pieces, that he's of course very much influenced by French Art Nouveau style. Versacrum and the Vienna Secession was the first association to open themselves up to international styles, and they were in close contact not only with the British artists but also with French artists, even Americans, Polish artists were invited. And you see very well what the new quality of ornament is that develops in these years after 1897. Ornament is seen as something that is directly related to the surface, that is flat, simple, geometric, very much opposed to what we saw in Henry van der Velde's examples, for example. Also a Belgian-born artist is involved, Fernand Knopf. You see two illustrations of his from his hand that were included in Versacrum, the new magazine that the secessionists started. And you see how also Knopf's essentially symbolist style is taking over this linearity that it becomes so characteristic of the Vienna Secession. You see the even taking in the crest of the Vienna Secession, the three crests of the arts that became the symbol of Versacrum. So you see there is an exchange starting on a European basis between the secessionist artists and international modernists they got in contact with. Another one very influential, especially for the decorative arts and for this new approach to design and ornament in Vienna, was this gentleman. It's of course Charles René Mackintosh. He gets in contact with Joseph Hoffman, and he and the Glasgow Four from Scotland are invited to show for the first time on the continent in the 8th Secession exhibition in 1900. You see this famous room installation that he established on this purpose with his characteristic linear neo-medieval furniture that he's became famous for, and one of these gesso friezes that his wife Margaret MacDonald Mackintosh did. This new linearity also had an impact on the approach that Joseph Hoffman took, and it's interesting to see that the later opponents, Joseph Hoffman on the right-hand side and Adolf Loos on the left-hand side, in these years, in the early years of the secession, were still thinking that they were taking the same routes. The best example for this is the this page from Versacrum from 1898. You see an architectural design by Joseph Hoffman, still very much influenced by the Wagner, by the school of Otto Wagner, and the text, the famous text by Adolf Loos, Die Potemkinsche Stadt, Potemkin City, where he writes against the way of using ornament in historicist architecture, where there is no relation between the decoration of a building and the structural qualities and the meaning of the building and the position of its owner. This is the main point of the criticism that Adolf Loos establishes in his reviews that he starts to write in these years for the Neue Freie Presse. The two young architects, Hoffman out of the school of Otto Wagner and Adolf Loos, who had studied at the Dresden Technical University, went in different directions. Appeared a row about the decoration of the one room in the secession building where Adolf Loos was not invited. Joseph Hoffman, together with his artistic friends, and you see them here, between them, for example, here Gustav Klimt went on the maybe most famous room design that Hoffman could realize within the secession was the 14th secession exhibition dedicated to Beethoven, to the famous Beethoven sculpture by Max Klinger. And in these rooms, apart from the famous frescoes that Gustav Klimt did, Hoffman could establish something like this here. This is this famous counter relief that he did as part of the architectural layout of the rooms in the secession in 1902. And here you see very clearly where the development of ornament leads to in Austria. It's a way towards geometricity, simplicity, purity that is so important. Against this new approach, the abandoned former hopeful member of the secession, Adolf Loos, opposed very much. You see the pamphlet for his famous lecture that he gave, Ornament and Crime, Adolf Loos, Ornament und Verbrechen, held in 1913 in Vienna. It's a reaction on the success that the new ornamental approach of the secessionists had taken. At the same time, Adolf Loos was very much involved in the one and most important building that he was able to realize in the center of Vienna. It's the famous Loos house. It used to be the tailor's house for the important New English style tailors Goldman and Salach that he was able to build in 1911. An extreme scandal. You see some drawings, some caricatures from the time, calling Loos a criminal, and seeing the house as something that had no eyebrows and no decoration, similar to the gutters of the sewage in the city. And it was this new approach that Adolf Loos took that led away from the secessionist way of ornamental thinking. His way leads towards the Loos house that you see here, where ornament is seen as something that has to be developed out of the material that is used, that cannot cover up or be a mock-up of what's technically behind the architecture, or as something, as you see it here in his famous model for the never realized house for Josephine Baker in Paris in 1927, as something that you could develop out of the use of material for the facade. It's the same system that we have here with the marble on it. Here is the black and white marble. For Loos, it was clear that ornament was something that could not be redeveloped or newly developed, but that would be something that could be reused from historical styles. Much opposed to that, to Adolf Loos' position, Joseph Hoffman went on as a designer very successfully. He became a teacher at the School of Applied Arts, and out of the Vienna secession, he developed an idea together with his colleague Koloman Moser and with the first financer Fritz Werndorfer. You see the Werndorfer and Hoffman here with the first object that came out of this maybe most important design project of the 20th century in Vienna. That was the Davina Werkstatt, founded in 1903. An association of artists and artisans working together to establish a new linear style in all their objects. In the beginning, they thought they would only do a silver workshop, but in the end, it became an overall project. We mentioned the styles and the linearity of the Glasgow Four and Charles Rennie Mackintosh. He was the one who gave the idea for this new logo, the WW, and this linearity goes in all the styles, the monograms of the designers, the designs of the wrapping paper, even the objects are used in this new style. It's interesting to compare what Loos is doing at the same time. He is publishing a magazine that's called Das Andere, the Other, and he wanted to establish a new style in Austria with this magazine that was only published in 2 volumes for 2 years. And it's interesting if you compare the style that he uses. The simplicity, the clearness is the same, but Loos doesn't reinvent something. He uses historical fonts. He's not using new lettering. He's not reinventing something. He says tradition is everything for me. Out of this I can develop my modernity. Opposed to that, the way the Wiener Werkstätte was going, here you see some pictures from the first shop of the Wiener Werkstätte, established in 1904 in the Neustiftgasse. Another, and in juxtaposition to these rooms, here is Adolf Loos' solution of a new room, is the central room around the chimney place in his home in Bösendorfer Straße, nowadays built in Vienna's city museum. This orientation towards the English, the clearness, is something that again unites Hoffman and Loos, but the solution that they take out of this inspirations is a different one. Joseph Hoffman, you see him here with some drawings from the early Wiener Werkstätte, is taking a completely different approach. He is redeveloping a style out of geometricity in this famous drawing for the chairs from 1904, for example, where everything is linearity, clearness, and simplicity of the form, very precious materials that he chooses. And on the other hand, Adolf Loos solution for a new chair as he sees it. For Loos, a new chair can be a copy of a Baroque Chippendale chair here that he had made by his favorite carpenter, Mr. Feilich, about whom he even wrote an essay. And this is his approach to modernity. Modernity for Loos can be something that can be developed out of historical styles without copying them. And this is the new approach that he establishes, opposed to what Davina Werkstatt was doing. Linearity, clarity, even the use of new stencils that you see here in the numbering of the drawing in Joseph Hoffman's design was the issue in the early period of Davina Werkstatt, also in the designs for buildings that you see here. These simple drawings, the country house for the Knips family from 1925 was enough to realize the building, and from this it becomes clear that the drawing was important for this period. We saw in Pierre Marie's atelier the chairs for one of the most important pieces of the Wiener Werkstätte. This is the Cabaret Fledermaus. And we are coming back to Brussels. The ideas of the Wiener Werkstätte and this new way of ornament could be brought to Brussels due to a new commission that the Wiener Werkstätte got. Adolf Stocklet decided in 1905 to have a villa built by the Wiener Werkstätte. In the beginning, he thought to build it in Vienna, but then his father died and he had to go back to Brussels. So the building started in the Avenue Tervuren. You still have the house in Brussels nowadays. This is here you see the Stocklet couple and Joseph Hoffman on the building side. This is an historical photo where you see the new style of building that Hoffman established here, because he took over his idea of flat ornament to monumental building very much on the same way that his teacher Otto Wagner did in the Postsparkassen building at the same time. And you see his approach to monumentality that took over his idea of ornamentation, simplified and laid in every piece, even in the carpets for the Stocklet house, or the final, and to come back to Brussels again, the final masterpiece and total work of art in the dining room of the house, finished in 1912 together with his secession building colleague Gustav Klimt, who was in charge for the drawings of the Tree of Life here. And what we see here as an outcome are the two ways of dealing with ornament in Viennese modernity: the complete opposition to a new style that was to be